Have a look at that. So here we are, ready for the next section. Now, as you can see, this is now what was pork, it's now proper bacon. It's been in the fridge in the cure for 5 days now, and it's now looking very close to bacon. And you could just use that now as bacon, and it would be very nice. But I like smoked bacon. So as luck would have it, I have here my smoker. If you've never come across my smoker before, have a look at my YouTube channel and you'll see there's a video there all about how to build the smoker. It's probably one of the greatest things I've ever built. So I'm just going to put that in there. And that's going to stay there overnight. I'll draw your attention to my lovely new apron. I've been watching all these cooking programs on the television, and all these fancy chefs, they all have signature aprons. So I decided I could do one of those, so I made myself this nice denim apron, and as you can see, with proper leather straps, so therefore it's not going to come undone. So here you are, the most elegant apron you could possibly want. Now here's inside the smoker. This is the bit that actually makes the smoke, and that's full of sawdust. The actual sawdust you use does make quite a difference. So in this particular instance, I'm using apple, because obviously apple and pork go together beautifully. And once we close the door, that smoke will rise to fill the volume. Now obviously, it seems a bit of a waste just to run the smoker, just to do one little piece of pork. So I'm smoking some cheese. I've got at the back some cheddar, and at the front there's some double Gloucester. Smoked double Gloucester has to be one of the wonders of the world. And at the back I've got some prawns in a basket. And that's my tea for tonight, smoked prawns. It's going to be glorious. The cheese and the prawns will come out after a couple of hours, whereas the bacon will stay in all night, and that'll have about 12-14 hours smoke. So whilst the bacon's in the smoker, let's get on with the next element. We'll make some butter. Every bacon sandwich needs some butter, and it's dead easy to make. And once you've made your own, you'll never want to go back to shop built butter. So you need some double cream. Put the double cream in the mixer. So we've now got it to the point where it's whipped cream. And as I'm a professional, I'm resisting the opportunity to dip my finger in. So what we'll do now is just keep going. And what will happen is the cream will start to separate, and that's what we want. You can now see it's starting to break up, and it's taking on a slightly grainy texture. This is where our butter really starts to appear. What we've now got in the bottom of the bowl is it's separated between solids and liquid. The liquid is what would be referred to as buttermilk, and if we were making scones or something, that would be the perfect thing for it. And then we've got the solids, which is actually the butter. I'm going to just whip it up a little bit further, just to make sure I've got it all. Now that's a bit more like it, and it even feels like butter. So here we have our butter. We'll get rid of that. Now what we need to do is to wash out all of the liquid from this in cold water. If you leave any of the liquid inside the butter, that's the bit that will turn rancid first. So I would say that's pretty much got rid of all the buttermilk. Now what you do now depends very much on your own personal preference. For all intents and purposes, that's butter, but it's unsalted butter. So I like to have salted butter. You can spend money on fancy sea salt if you fancy proper sea salt, but I use normal table salt. Now you want to work reasonably quickly, just to work all that in. If you're the kind of person who likes garlic butter or herb butter, this is the time to work that in, and that would be very nice as well. And then what I'm going to do is divide that into 2 parcels. And I've got these, which are my butter packs. Somebody bought me these for Christmas, one of my daughters. Who'd have thought I'd have had so much use out of them, but I really enjoy it. But there you are, 2 packs of butter. Now what I shall do now, I shall wrap them up, put them in the fridge. One of them I shall leave as it is, and one of them, being as we got the smoker going, I shall put one in the smoker. Obviously you have to unwrap it first to put it in the smoker, because smoked butter is very, very good. I didn't think I was going to like it when somebody told me all about it, but having done it a couple of times now, I thoroughly enjoy it. It's worth a go. So it's time for the next bit. So let's recap where we've got to. We've made the bacon, and the bacon's now in the smoker, and that's smoking overnight. We've made the butter, and some of that's in the smoker as well. So that's going to be really nice. So the next thing we need to do is to actually do some cooking and make the sauce. Now there's all sorts of arguments about what sort of sauce you should want, but I favour a good traditional English brown sauce. But I like quite a fruity one of those, so that's what we're going to be making. So on my nice garden grill I have a hot pan into which I'm going to put a good glug of olive oil, and into that I'm going to put 500 grams of red onions, and 150 grams of sugar. Now this is a combination of caster sugar and dark brown sugar. And I'm just going to sweat the onions down. Now don't bother trying to write down the recipe. If you're interested, send me an email to the email which is shown at the bottom of the screen, and I'll send you the recipe card back. I'm then going to put in a kilo of cooking apples, to which we then need to add some liquid in the form of red wine vinegar. Now I'm also going to add 2 teaspoons of salt, and we'll put a bit more wood on the fire. Now I'd like to tell you I was using something really fancy as the fuel, but this is just bits of old pallet, clean old pallet, but still bits of old pallet, which I've cut up. Now as I said, I want this to be quite a fruity sauce, so I'm going to put the zest of 2 oranges. I wish I waited until after I'd done this before I put the more wood on the fire. By crikey, this has got some heat. So having zested the oranges, we'll have the orange juice as well. Now when I set off to do this, it was dead quiet here. Nobody was around. Now I've got the American Air Force flying their jets overhead. They're cutting the grass on the village green. A couple of gardens are cutting grass. There's a man with a chainsaw. So whatever you can hear in the background, it's just there. But now I've started, I'm not going to stop. Smoked paprika, one of my favourites. Black pepper, and that, as they say, is pretty much all we're going to put in there. So I'm going to bring that to the boil, and then simmer it for about 20 minutes. So if you were doing that on a proper oven, you turn it up full, bring it to the boil and then turn it down. Here I just put a bit more wood on the fire. So whilst the sauce is cooking, let's see how the bacon's getting on. The cheese is ready to come out. Oh, that's starting to look good. So finally, our butter, which we made earlier. Now, just to make it a little bit more solid, I've had it in the freezer for about an hour. But we'll leave that in there for about 2 hours, and then that will be delightful. Time for the secret ingredient. A good glug of maple syrup. Oh, it really does smell nice. Now after 20 minutes, that's reduced down beautifully. That's really starting to look thick, gloopy. Oh God, that's good. Oh, that's thick, unctuous. You can really taste the orange, so that's going to be absolutely superb with anything that's sort of fatty. So bacon, or of course I'm not saying that my bacon's going to be fatty, but any sort of fatty meat, duck, something like that, that's going to be superb. And whilst it's still warm, I've got some jars which I've had in the oven just to warm up, just to sterilise them. When I first started doing this, I used to worry about putting things in the right sort of bottles, you know, sauce bottles and things like that. But I'd end up with boxes and boxes of different sorts of bottle. And there's no point really, because it's only for me. The one thing I would tell you is to remember to make sure you put a label on it. I've got so many jars in the cupboard, I don't know what it is. Is it strawberry jam or is it brown sauce? Now this is ready to eat now. And it'll be very nice. We'll have it tomorrow with our bacon sandwich. If you left it for a month, it gets better. If you left it for 6 months, it'll be superb. But we'll find out tomorrow. It's bacon sandwich time.